Hello and welcome everybody. It's Dr. Mulvaney here. I'm going to be today introducing you to a really fun activity called backwards forwards sketching. Now, this was originally developed by the brilliant Paula Briggs, and the aim is to help you develop knowledge and understanding of your subject matter, what it is you're drawing, through slow, careful observation. That's looking, really looking. One of my first tips for anyone who wants to develop their drawing is draw what you see. We're always looking, thinking and doing, responding to what we're seeing and what we want to communicate when making a drawing.
Backwards forwards drawing will help you to slow down your mark making, because when you're drawing, your drawing line has to repeat itself and you'll be moving your wrist backwards and forwards and backwards again and again, repeatedly. This will allow you to really feel out the object by drawing. For your subject matter, you can choose any small still life object. I've gone for a little metal elephant ornament here. I like how chunky his form is and think it will allow me to practice my line work well. Materials you'll need today: soft B pencils. I've used a HB here, you can use any of the others, but we're not using rubbers today. That's key. And drawing paper. I've here A4 paper positioned landscape. You should begin by deciding whether you position your paper landscape or portrait. That'll depend on the form of your object. If it's longer or taller than it is wider, then go for portrait. If it's wider than it is longer, opt for landscape or horizontal. My little elephant is more or less as long as it is wide. I'm going for landscape. I started by tracing my finger lightly over the page, already beginning to feel where the drawing will take form. This is about movement and line and drawing with purpose, with intention. So no postage stamp artwork today, please. I then decide where to begin. I'm going to be sketching lines backwards and forwards. I'll compose my artwork starting from the bottom left, from the elephant's hind legs, as you can see here, working up towards the head, ears and trunk at the top right hand corner of my page. Then returning to fill in the form of the rest of the body. I've included a little thumbnail image here of my ornament. The angle I'm looking at is slightly different to the image you can see here. Now, as Paula Riggs explains, the idea is to draw the object using only one motion, one movement, in backwards and forwards movements. You're only allowed to draw from left to right and right to left from your wrist. Your line should always be repeating itself, forwards and backwards. You can turn your wrist to move backwards and forwards in any direction too, but it's so important that your hand and eye are always checking and rechecking each line as it is formed. This is to make sure you really see the lines you're making as you go, and that you're happy that you're drawing what your eye can see. I'm also going to think about tone as I'm working on now. That's the lightness or darkness of something. This could be shade or how dark or light a colour appears. Tones are created by the way light falls on a 3D object. Here in my elephant, the darker areas are called shadows and the lighter areas are called highlights. I made my shadow there on the head by moving backwards and forwards and pressing harder down on the page with my HB pencil. Moving on up into the trunk, this proud, almost vertically erected trunk. Watch how I repeatedly trace over my line, backwards and forwards. By moving the pencil backwards and forwards, you can work on improving the still life object, its form, as you focus and work out the shapes and proportions. Note in the little thumbnail image there in the top right hand corner, darkest areas are where the object casts a shadow onto the table beneath. So there between the legs where it's darkest. Up now into the form of the cheerful little teal. You can draw absolutely anything that you can put your hand on at home. Anything will work for this. It's really a warm-up drawing practice. And the key thing is looking and responding to what you see. Now, I've sped up my video here, but don't forget the key to this is slow, careful observation. I'm looking for shapes, and in this object there are lots of angles. I'm paying attention to the size of those angles where lines meet. So looking at the shadows now that are cast upon the table, same thing applies with the lines moving backwards and forwards, repeating over the line. And looking again at the whole composition and checking I've got my tones correct there. With the shadows, you can be quite loose and gestural with your strokes here. It's not about exact precision, it's more about communicating a sense of the shadow where it falls on the table. And I'm going to start adding just a hint of the background here, the texture, the nice green of the table, but I don't want it to detract too much from my drawing. This is just to give a sense of it. So I finish with the last little bit of detail there, and I sign and date. It's always really important you do that in the bottom corner of your image. I'm really, really happy with how this has gone, and I cannot wait to hear how you get on as you explore your pencils, feel your way around the image. Good luck, everybody. See you on the next lesson.